What up, cappers, gamblers, punters, hustlers, low baggers? Happy Wednesday, October 13th to all of you. Thank you for watching Betting with the Bag right here on Pub Sports Radio. The NHL kicked off last night. I hope our breakdowns got you off of the Tampa Bay Lightning. We cashed our first bet of the year, the first period under 1.5, and then promptly gave that back with the Golden Knights not covering the puck line in a 4-3 loss. A lot of parity in the NHL. It'll always be that way. It looks like there's more parity this year in the NHL than any year I can remember. Although Coyotes and the Sabres are going to be god awful. But that's what went down night one. We have 5 games here to attack in NHL. No baseball today. We have the big Giants-Dodgers game tomorrow. We're going to get Noli Knows to come in on a Thursday to break that down for us. And then Friday, DJ Big Boss will be with us to break down more NCAA college football. I picked out 2 spots that I want to attack in college football, but I was only able to pull the trigger on one bet. I need to talk out this Western Kentucky Old Dominion spot with you guys. I guess I just have this vividness bias, recency bias of what happened to me last week with Marshall against Old Dominion. And it sucks because Old Dominion was a team that I wanted to back. After I watched what Ricky Ronnie was doing with the program, I was like, man, we're going to find value with that team. And I just thought it was a smash spot for Marshall after I watched that whole Old Dominion UTEP game. So that's all in my head. So I want to talk that out with you guys. Thank you guys for joining us. We got Gerald Jones, Puzzler, Sammy Calmer, ready to rock. No baseball. We are going to discuss football, and I'm excited about breaking down the football and the NFL action because I only pulled the trigger on one bet after our whole Tuesday show. The only bet I made was the Bears plus 4.5. I was just spinning my tires on the other look, so I do want to go over everything one more time. Nasty Nate said I had Vegas money line in the parlay with Louisiana first half and the Braves. Nice job, Nasty Nate. That looks great. Shout out to Ron Crawford. He cashed both spreadsheet plays yesterday. Shout out to our Jose Bouquet. Say hey, play today. Cashed as well. Houston Astros team total over. There's Red Girl in the house. Birdie. Birdie, it says morning all great calm bangs last night. You read that perfectly. I'm still left with sort of a bit of a sour taste in my mouth, and something that we talk about often on the show. And I don't want to talk about it too much because I don't want to get in my head. But you can cap a game very well. Then do you bet it well? And I had fear, and I often have fear at the start of the season. And I didn't pull the trigger on the Pens, so. Yeah, I cashed the first period under 1.5. It was plus 115 when we were on the show. I ended up betting it at plus 105, which, I hurt a bit. But all in all, it's one thing to cap well, and it's another thing to bet well. And it takes balls to bet well, and it takes discipline and smarts. Capping well is just, it takes smarts, and it takes a love of sports, and it takes other skills. And even last night, watching that game kind of play out the way I had imagined it and seeing Brian Boyle score after recovering from cancer and all that and walking on to the Penguins that put a big smile on my face. But still not making enough money, I guess. $210 is $210, and it's great. And then I gave back $200 with the Vegas. So I, make $10 last night. And I was so caught up in NFL that I didn't even bet the college football. So, look, thank you for the kind words, but I was angry. Spreadsheet plays, not angry. I just, I still don't cash enough. But thank you for the kind words. Red Girl, we got TJ ready to get to work. Neil P says Tampa Bay giving up a lot of passing yards. Maybe Dallas Goedert or Sanders receiving prop. Goedert has COVID. Goddard has COVID, and we don't think he's going to play, Neil. He is vaccinated, so there's a chance that he plays, but he's got 48 hours to get through things. We're going to break that game down heavy tomorrow. Damon Santori says under on Thursday Night Football seems wrong, but Eagles just came off a big road win. Tampa banged up. I think they run the clock on the road. Only thing that worries me is Tampa's secondary. I get that. Gerald Jones cashing with the Braves in the series. Nice job. Betting tips 1,000. Yeah. Yes. I am Canadian, yes. Slatsy on the Rangers. So we have a couple things here. First off, Ron Crawford's spreadsheet play today is Edmonton in regulation. So that game is the only game I've bet so far today, other than that one Rutgers bet. But the only game in NHL I bet. Let's lock this in here. Edmonton in regulation for Ron Crawford. And Slatsy's on the Rangers. So is Sammy Comer on the Rangers plus 110. I believe Birdie's on them as well. Sammy Comer leaning towards the Habs and the Chicago Blackhawks money line. Slatsy's on Rangers with Backstrom out and Ovi game time decision. The Hawks with no McKinnon as a big dog took it on the chin with Tampa last night. And that's the main thing about what I've always found with betting hockey is that you take a star out of the line. And it's the same with NBA, really. You take a star out of the lineup. Now, I expect Ovechkin to be in the lineup tonight. He's been skating. He wants to play. He's going to be hurt all year, and he's going to play. So, Luke, I'm glad that you rolled with me there. So I'm a little nervous. Neil P says, DraftKings stock just made NHL official betting partner. Buy some stock under 50 while you can, says Neil P. Thank you for sharing that with us. Let's copy and paste that right now and pop that in here. Thank you for sharing that with us, Neil P. Okay. Thank you, Cheshire Cat, my man. Ski Profit says NHL unders today. That is the only bet I've made, Ski. I bet the under 6.5 at plus 110. It got up to plus 115 at some books. I'm very curious to see what it'll be at now, what it'll be at when we break this game down. And Sammy Comer says, I had the under 6 in that Pens game. Never again. Sammy, that was the right bet. It was the right play. Don't let those spots make you upset. Anybody who took the under, and I would have taken it if it had stayed at 6 as well, moved down to 5.5, and I stayed off of it. That was the right bet. So don't worry. That was a freak situation where Tampa pulled their goalie very early. Let that be. Stay with exactly what you're doing. Everything you did was right. All right. Let's get to work right now. Great to see all you guys. Not Flash Allen says, sorry, I'm late. Great to see you. And Ski Profit laughing, saying, you should be well rested. I know you went to bed early last night. A big win for the Dodgers. I can't wait to break that game down tomorrow. All righty. Let's go. First off, I'd like to give a shout out to a low bagger who's hitting 44.3% from 3, averaging 14.3 points per game for the Kawasaki Brave Thunders. Thunders are off to a 3-1 start this year, and I'm talking about our man Matt Janning, who's in our horse chats. He does our Thoroughbred Horse shows with us. He does these shows with us. He's over in Japan playing basketball, and they should be 4-0 to start the year. So I want to give a big shout out to Matt Janning right now. 44.3% from 3. That man is doing. Betting Tips 1000 says, what team do you support in the NHL? I support the Vancouver Canucks. I'm 42 years old, and it's been a very sad history. We did have a nice little run there in the early 90s. Okay. Billy Brisbane says, feel like a crackhead in need of NHL bets today. Let's get you those bets. Sunny Springs ready to get to work. Love having Brizzy in the house. Slatsy says, biggest statement game of the year for the Rangers after the Wilson beatdown. Added a lot of toughness to go with skilled players. I can't wait to talk about that game. That will be second. First, we start 7 p.m. Eastern. Montreal Canadiens at Toronto Maple Leafs, Scotiabank Arena in Toronto, Ontario, just down the QEW, just down the Gardner from me. Very close. Jake Allen will be up against Jack Campbell. Jake Allen has a lot of pressure on his shoulders. It's one thing when you come onto a team and you know that you're in the back seat, that Carey Price is in the front seat, and you have no pressure. It's another thing when that guy in the front seat heads off to rehab and you are the man. Now, he knew he was going to be the man all summer. We knew that Carey Price had injury issues that could cost him at least 2 months of the year. Jake Allen. Let's see how he handles this. He lost his job to Bennington with the Blues. Now he has a chance right here. Let's go. Jake Allen, last year, 11, 12, and 5, 2.68 goals against, average 907 save percentage. Cab says, off topic yesterday, your word salutes says Canadiens cats. I live Kelowna for summer when I played for the Falcons. Canada is amazing. Wow, that's incredible. You played up in Kelowna. Nice looking salutes up there. Cheshire Cat. I mean, It's your call, Cheshire Cat, why Carey Price is in there. But we know that hockey players go to rehab for 2 reasons: alcohol, cocaine. Pick your poison. All right. Mark Schillingberg said, let's go. Pens plus 205. Told everyone in here last night. Tampa Bay sleepwalking last night. Great job, Mark Schillingberg. Okay, so Jack Campbell, 17-3-2, 2.15 goals against average, 921 save percentage last year. And I don't know if he's the guy. Both of these goaltenders, I question whether they can be the guy, the number one. Yes, Jack Campbell took the job from Frederik Andersen last year, and Frederik Andersen, put it out on a silver platter for Jack Campbell. Jack Campbell started his Toronto Maple Leafs career hotter than anyone I'd ever seen. Now we have a nice, long, full season, and let's see if Jack Campbell can handle that. North Ender says pain pills is another big one, Jimmy. You're absolutely right. I shouldn't have just covered it to alcohol and coke. You're absolutely right. There is Fat Wally in the house, also giving love to Matt Janning. Ron Crawford said the Pens over was as easy when we got the empty net with 6 minutes left. You're right, Ron. You're right. Rem Mo says over 5.5. We'll start there. Now, anybody who's bet the Leafs over the last 2 years knows that you're used to totals at 6.5. And I have an issue with 6.5s. I can't bet over 6.5s, and I've been trying to get over it. I see a 6.5. I want to go under it. You see a Toronto Maple Leafs total at 6, and you think, God, this opened at 5.5 in a Leafs game? Now, why would that be? Austin Matthews out of the lineup. One reason, still recovering from wrist surgery, will not play. They're also missing Ilya Mikheyev, out 8 weeks after breaking his thumb in Toronto's final preseason game. You have the Habs picking up Mike Hoffman. It's funny how the Habs just seem to not care in the offseason, drafting a guy who, I don't want to say begged, but didn't want to get drafted. And then picking up Mike Hoffman, a guy who's well known to have issues with other players. Joel Edmondson and Mike Hoffman will be out of the lineup. And other news here, Nick Suzuki got an 8-year, $63 million contract extension. In the past, and I don't have numbers to prove this is more of a vividness bias. In the past, when a kid, a 22-year-old, signs a contract that big, they get out of the gate slow. That contract kind of weighs on their shoulders. He scored 41 points last year, 16 points in the Stanley Cup playoffs, when I question whether he would be able to step up in the toughness that comes in the NHL playoffs. He was able to do that. He looks absolutely like a keeper. This total opened up at 5.5. It's now at 6. BetOnline is still holding off to drop the 6, but this 5.5 is crazy. It's minus 137 to the over. Now let's go to money lines, and then we'll go over to the cash, and then we'll talk about these lineups. Slatsy says, Matthew out, Marner game time decision, but this has to be a full effort by the Leafs after the playoffs. No bet yet. Deneau will be missed here, but the Habs seem to win these types of games. They did. TJ says, don't bet much hockey, but I'm going to tail this here. The Leafs are to hockey betting as the Yankees are to baseball, correct? I don't know. I don't know if I would go that far, because I know a lot of people who've made a pretty penny over the years fading the Leafs, especially come playoff time. But I don't know. I don't know if I would give that. I don't see a ton of there's such a vividness of the Leafs being a bad hockey team. It's not like the Yankees who win championships over and over again. This team hasn't won the championship since 1967. This team hasn't won Stanley Cup since there were 6 teams in the league. So I don't know if it's the same. Brady says Marner may be out as well. Collided with Simmons at practice yesterday. Keep an eye out there. All right. DX Filer liking the Leafs here. There's Eric Thomas in the house. Diehard MMA podcast. We got Clinton in the house. Says, without Price, can the Canadiens pull it off? I'm probably going to watch this one. Neil Peace says Montreal won the previous 3 games against the Leafs. All plus money odds. Do they have similar players? Maybe they can get it done again. I don't know NHL too well. No. This is a very yes, betting tips. I bet every sport. I'm a big sports fan, and Gambling lights my life up with a great excitement. Northander says first period unders are nice value. Find them early in the season. That Tampa Bay Pit plus 115 was sweet to start the year. There's Sharon in the house. Cheshire Cat says there isn't much I like about the Toronto Maple Leafs. I bet their under season point total at 105.5. I'd like to go over when we finish this breakdown of the 5 games. I'd like to review the futures that I made because I did add 5 yesterday after the show with Pistol Pete Loshak. Okay. Eric Thomas says NHL is back, Jimmy. I know you're going to bless us with some locks. I won't use the word locks, but I think with all these great cappers that we have working together that we will have a very successful hockey season. Northander says Leafs were much better defensively last year, and without Matthews and maybe Marner, I lean under first period here, not pulling the trigger yet. Die Hard MMA podcast says first period under might not be a bad look here. Okay, so from a money line perspective, the Leafs open up at minus 165. They're now minus 174, a 9-cent move. For all of us who are going back to that big series, the 7-game series with the Leafs up 3-1, the 7-game series where Johnny Tavares got knocked out 10 minutes into game 1 of the series. To all of us thinking back here, this is very, very different. These rosters are very different. And if one of the things that we don't trust, let me just pull up the line combinations. If one of the things we don't trust is the Leafs having heart, if you look at Austin Matthews and his goal production, and then you take him into the playoffs and his goal production drops to 0.25 goals a game. Now, he's not in the lineup. But if you don't trust their heart, do you think they're really angry at this Habs team? Because in any other situation, I would be back in the Toronto Maple Leafs here. But I don't know. Toffoli, Suzuki, Cole Caulfield on the first line, that could be absolutely electric. It could, every time they get the puck on a rush, the fans at the Bell Center will get up out of their seats. That's what Suzuki and Caulfield can do. And having a veteran presence who's not afraid to go into the dirty areas like Tyler Toffoli, he's perfect for this line. And I wish that he was still in the Canucks uniform. Then you have huge question marks in Jonathan Drouin and Christian Dvorak. This is a huge opportunity for Dvorak. He's been, playing in Phoenix where people just don't care. And now he gets to play in Montreal, where people care so much. It's a huge opportunity for him. And you have Josh Anderson on the wing. Armia, Evans, Gallagher, Perreault, Paquette, Lehkonen. This is a good team and a deep team at forward. It's at defense where Kulak has to be big, playing with Petrie. David Savard is in the lineup. And David Savard has got to play huge with Weber not there. Then you have Romanov and Weidman. A power play with Toffoli, Suzuki, Gallagher, Cole Caulfield, and Jeff Petrie should be very good, shouldn't it? Clint says, Dvorak is my boy. I care, Jimmy. I care. I love that. Mike Hoffman, Breeze one tonight, says Sammy Calmer. Hoffman is not going to be in the lineup. Hoffman will not be in the lineup. He is still hurt. He's still out of it. $4.5 million per year for him. And Big Show picks. Let's copy and paste Big Show picks. He's got looks for this spot here, this big game in Colorado. Again, Nate McKinnon not going to be in the lineup there. Very, very interesting spot. And I hate fading teams. I hate fading teams when they're missing a star player early. But I love fading teams when they're missing 2 of their top 4 defensemen, which is something different. Okay, so McKinnon is not in Cheshire Cat, and McKinnon may not even be back in on Saturday. We're going to get into that. He is tested positive for COVID. So let's move over to this Leafs lineup. And then you have to ask, so at this point, when I question how much the Leafs care, when I look at this lineup, without Austin Matthews, without Mikheyev, a lineup that I don't even like that much. The more and more I stare at this game, I don't see why we wouldn't take the Habs in this spot, which was not my plan going in. But I guess it comes down to this. You take Austin Matthews out of this lineup. And then you take Shea Weber out of the Habs lineup. And Montreal's a better team than Toronto. Suzuki signs this huge contract. I almost wish he didn't. Birdie says, I'm not as down on the Leafs as most, apparently. I think they're fine in regular season. Always comes down to the playoffs. If I bet this game, it would be the Leafs. They are deep up front. Top set in the house. Great to see you. Top set. Thank you, Jaquan, my guy. And Slatsy says they're always fine in the regular season. So this was not the plan before talking to you guys about it, but I guess without Matthews in the lineup, I just think that the Montreal Canadiens are a better team than the Leafs. And at a plus spot here, Puzzler says there seems to be too many Habs out. I don't know, man. Really? I mean, Hoffman wasn't there last year. You know, Dvorak may be more valuable at this point than Kotkaniemi. You got Jonathan Drouin back. You didn't have him in the lineup last year. And have the Leafs been sitting there so angry? Have they been sitting there in the offseason going, I can't wait to get back at those Canadiens? Or was Austin Matthews hanging out with Justin Bieber? You know? Let's see. We got Gokster in the house? Mr. Gokster in the house. Mr. Gokster, how are you moving on this? I'd love to know. Big Show. Thank you, man. I love this very much. Okay, so with all that being said, I think there's value on the Habs, man. I want to say that there's going to be this hangover from going to the Stanley Cup Finals. I want to say all those things. I didn't know what to do with this game when I was capping it and looking at it. And now Brady says, keep in mind one bad goal against on this goalie Habs team deflate, in my opinion. They thought Price was coming back and goaltending is a concern for them. They knew that Price wasn't coming back for the first couple months of the year. Isaiah Bolden says, why is Mr. Gokster not on the show, Jimmy? Isaiah, that is a good point. We need to get Mr. Gokster back in action here with us. And we will. Isaiah, we will. We'll get Mr. Gokster back here. We're just a lot of sports, a lot of changes going on right now. We're just kind of setting up our schedule. Okay. With all that being said, it is time to take the Canadiens. Let's just see what I would get here. They're going to be so fast. I mean, look how fast this hockey team is. And I know this is a new age in the NHL. And look, you also have, so I think that Suzuki will be weighed down by the contract, but you have Jonathan Drouin with so much to prove. You have Christian Dvorak with so much to prove. David Savard with so much to prove. You have a goaltender in Jake Allen with so much to prove. Do the Leafs have that much to prove? I don't know. Can Johnny Tavares keep up? Okay, I've talked myself into it. Montreal Canadiens, I'm moving on in game one of the season. All right, let's move on to 7:30 p.m. Eastern. New York Rangers at Washington Capitals. And Mr. Goga says, I completely agree with everything you're saying, Jim. I hope you also agree with getting you on the show as much as possible. We need you on the show. It is not a first period angle. It is not a first period angle at all. No, this is a full game Habs. Full game Habs. We'll see, Bertie. From an implied probability factor at this point, I guess it comes down to this. Another team missing Austin Matthews, missing their star, I would want to back or not fade. But I've been questioning these betting tips. Each sport will come up and look, if that says MLB there, we have each sport that comes up and That's why it looks like that, because that's my MLB record. Okay, sorry, let me stay focused here. All right, Sammy Comer says Rangers plus 110. Lance LaRose says Rangers in over. And North Ender says it's good value. Play Jimmy certainly have a 50% shot. And Diehard MMA Podcast says I'm going to look for Dvorak to pick up right where he left off. Kidder and his chance on a better team. He's going to play hard. The Habs brass certainly feels like this year they're better off with Dvorak at the price point than Kotkaniemi. This year. In 3 years from now, we'll see who's laughing, and we'll have to see what kind of contract Kotkaniemi signs in the offseason. Capital One Arena in Washington, D.C. I expect Igor Shesterkin to go up against Ilya Samsonov. Shesterkin, 16-14-3, 2.62 goals against average, 9.16 save percentage. Ilya Samsonov, 18-13-4, 2.69 goals against average, 9.02 save percentage. Birdie says, I'm getting very concerned. I'm not seeing any Capital supporters at all. Well, I'll tell you this, Birdie. I do not want the New York Rangers here. I'll tell you that. You know. Dommy Gunn reaching now says, crush my 3-unit Astros series minus 130, 2-unit on the game yesterday plus 103. As soon as I heard Rodon pitching, I jumped on it. Great job, Dommy Gunn. Slatsy, and wondering if North Ender is moving on the Habs. So am I. North Ender, are you moving on it? I would love to know. Okay, let's go. There you go, Oz B. We knew Caps says Caps all day, Birdie. So Alexander Ovechkin's questionable play in the Washington Capitals season opener, I think he will be there. I also was looking at this Washington lineup, staring at it over the last 48 hours. Staring at it. Birdie, that's not my plan. Trust me. I'm not fading. It's not like that at all. Trust me. I'm not. There's nothing that thought never once has even entered my head. I didn't even realize I was fading all your plays. So, trust me, that is absolutely not my plan. I was looking at this Caps squad, and I think the time has gone past. The Rangers are a team moving in the right direction. The Capitals are a team not moving in the right direction anymore. You have to say, look, and that's why I bet them last year. But I cannot trust them this year. Backstrom's not in the lineup. Who cares? It comes down to this. It comes down to some of these guys. So Backstrom not being in the lineup helps the Capitals enormously. They get the salary exemption for this $9.2 million cap hit while he's out. That is a big, big deal. So the longer that Backstrom is out, the better. And we get to see, hopefully, Hendrix Lapierre in the lineup. So Hendrix Lapierre, the 2020 first-round pick, is going to be in the lineup. And it's possible that Connor McMichael, the 2019 first-rounder, will get in the lineup if Ovechkin doesn't play. These are the kids that we got to keep an eye on. Now, we know how hard it is to succeed in the NHL at this age. We've watched Jack Hughes and Nico Hischier struggle. We've watched Capo Caco struggle. Alexis Lafreniere struggle. So I'm not sitting here saying, as soon as Hendrix Lapierre or Connor McMichael get into the lineup, they're going to be rolling. And Vitek Vanacek in net from Mr. Goldster. Vitek Vanacek. Thank you, Trot Wham, on the App State Under. I do have terrible news, though, Wham. I was so caught up in capping for NFL, in preparing for the NFL show, that I didn't bet it. So, and when the game started, I was like, oh, God. And I could have gone in live, but I was like, just fucking let it go. Let this shit go. Okay. Sammy Comer says, Rangers line moving fast up to minus 101 on Pinnacle. So, we had Slatsy talk about what New York did in the offseason. Brian Watson, that's moved to 6, by the way, but you need to watch these teams, and I can't wait to watch these teams. I can't wait to watch the Habs play the Leafs. Okay, so I need to watch it before I get really confident in fading or believing in certain teams. But Slatsy talked about New York bulking up in the offseason. Well, first off, they got David Quinn out of there, who was in over his head, and Gerard Gallant comes in, a coach that I love, and a player that I loved. Then they get Barclay Goodrow and Ryan Reeves. I like it. They move Buchnevich out, and I like Bucci. I like Bucci. They bring in Sammy Blais. There's an idea that Sammy Blais is this tough winger, and I'm like, have I missed this? Have I missed Sammy Blais being this tough winger? I need to see more of that. I've seen Barclay Goodrow play gritty, tough hockey, but I need to see more from Sammy Blais. Then they signed Patrick Nemeth and Jared Tenorti, so they get size. Mr. Gokster says New York Rangers money line. Brady says, I will go down with the ship here as I am heavily invested. I certainly am not going to take the other side, but with these young stars, Lafreniere, Kakko, I want to watch them stand up in the face of adversity. I want to watch Adam Fox in the year after winning the Norris. I want to watch these Rangers play. There's no doubt in my mind that the Rangers are a better team than the Capitals. Let's move over to the Capitals lineup here. So I expect Ovechkin to be there. So I expect Kuznetsov. Kuznetsov has a ton to prove this year. A ton to prove. Tom Wilson. Then Eller, Mantha, Sprong, Oshie, and then there's Hendricks Lapierre, third-line center with Connor Sheary, Hagelin, Dowd, Garnett, Hathaway. So clearly to me, this is a better team in the Rangers. We have Martin Verhervary, who looks like he's going to open up as on that top unit with John Carlson. Second-round pick, 2018 NHL entry draft out of Slovakia. And he looks very good. Last year in 24 games with the Hershey Bears, he was plus 10, and he had 17 points in those 24 games. Let's move over to the by the way, it was my apologies for the game tonight in Habs Montreal. At this point, with 6,783 tickets in, and I should have mentioned this, 90 well, I'll slow down there. 76% of the tickets are on the Leafs, and 94% of the cash is on the Leafs tonight. And then you have 40% of the tickets and 93% of cash on the under, which is extremely interesting and also quite probable, I would say. Maybe we wait for this to go up, and maybe, sorry, I hate to double back on that Habs Leafs game, but maybe that first period under is the spot. Sebastian A says, love the Rangers with OV, not at 100%. Birdie says, I circled this game as soon as the schedule came out. It was the first game I looked for. I get it. Clint, Bucci's over with the Blues, and I like the Blues this year. To this game here, we have 65% of the tickets and 83% of the cash on the Rangers. Then we have 31% of tickets, 51% of cash on the under. I agree with you guys that the Rangers seem to be the play here. But I'm just not certain that there's a risk reward here that is appropriate. And I know that Birdie got in while there was a plus line. Now I would get a minus 110. Jose's on the Rangers as well. Oh, looks like we have a Say Hey play of the day in Edmonton. Exciting. Ron Crawford says, what's Reeves' status? I thought that he wasn't going to be in the lineup, but it looks like he will be in the lineup. Let's just check. I thought he wasn't going to be. Let's just do this quick injury update on Reeves. Yes, he's going to be in the lineup. He will be ready and in the lineup. And Uno Live Central says Capitals money line all day. What did Birdie get it at? Did he list that? Birdie says this game has revenge written all over it for the Rangers. Panarin coming back healthy flips these teams, in my opinion. In fact, what happened last season, those last two games, this is a New York Rangers spot. Von Polo says the border is open for fully vaccinated people. We've been told that that's happening next month. Betting Tip says my Mala has him at 55% to win, -110 is a plus EV bet. And Dommy Gunreach has a new video on Who Banging Sports Talk on my Twitter on Week 6 teams, how they perform before the bye, plus nuggets on those games as far as matchups. Thank you for sharing that with us. Jason Folks is ouch. That cash and ticket breakdown of the Leafs is eerily similar to Tampa Bay yesterday. And Birdie got it at plus 135. That's beautiful. TJ got it at plus 110. Von Polo, as soon as we can get over the border, I will. I was talking about with my girlfriend. We want to drive over the border as soon as we can. We've been told that next month we'll be allowed to drive over the border. So as soon as I can, I will. So, with all that being said, I don't think I'm going to move on this game. I don't think I'm going to be moving on this game. How about this? Mr. Ghost says, I hate going up against you guys, but I'm be on New York Rangers first period in full game. You're not going up against many of us because you got Birdie, you got Slatsy, you got TJ, all on the Rangers. I guess it comes down to this. How about I'll say this? The Rangers are a better hockey team than the Capitals. I'm unsure how these young players are going to react playing the Capitals today. And I'm not sitting here saying these Rangers have a ton of heart. Watch what they do out here. I'm not. I don't feel that way. I don't feel that way about the team. Obviously, that's why they needed all the reinforcements. Look, they showed the way they fought back after that hit on Panarin. I was impressed. But these are young kids, and there's been a few months off. If I had moved when Birdie moved on the New York Rangers at plus 135, I'd be sitting here feeling very good about myself. I guess I don't want to move at minus 110. But I do know that Washington Capitals are sort of the Rangers' daddy, and I want to see the Rangers step up in the face of adversity and beat the Capitals here before I make moves on it. Ron Crawford's also on the Rangers. North Ender says, I was shocked Rangers were plus 135 so much it scared me off. Okay, so let's move on. But Von Polo, if I'm going to drive down, I'll probably wait till – I'll put snow tires on and shit like that, but I'll probably wait till it starts getting warmer again for a drive all the way down. But I'll tell you what, how about maybe opening day, Camden, maybe something like that? Okay, so I'm moving on past this Rangers-Capitals game. I find it extremely interesting. Let's move on to 10 p.m. Eastern, and we will start with Big Show Picks' looks here. He's got DeBrincat, a goal at plus 200, 2 goals at plus 1,100. Landeskog, a goal at plus 150. Rantanen, a goal at plus 100. Chicago Blackhawks at Colorado Avalanche. Ball Arena in Denver, Colorado. And Osby says Rangers are legit, but maybe not today. Rangers are legit. Rangers are a very good hockey team. Kenny Ken in the house. Thank you for joining us. All right. Colorado Avalanche star Nathan MacKinnon will miss the season opener against the Chicago Blackhawks on Wednesday night after testing positive for a breakthrough infection of COVID-19. I don't know what breakthrough infection means. Joe Sakic said Tuesday that the positive test surfaced Monday. He's asymptomatic and feeling good. MacKinnon did not practice Tuesday, obviously. The earliest he could return is Saturday when the Avalanche host the Blues. Not only that, but Jared Bednar, the Avalanche coach, is also in COVID-19 protocol, and he will not be coaching tonight. He will be back coaching on Saturday. So let's take a look at this new look Chicago Blackhawks team. I think Brady made a great point with these Blackhawks that this is win now time. But there's question marks. There are question marks, and the main question mark is what's Johnny Taves going to give you? We know that DeBrincat and Kubalik are really good young hockey players. What's Johnny Taves going to give you? And you're telling me that Tyler Johnson is a number one line center? So on a Stanley Cup winning team, he's a healthy scratch at times. So you're telling me this is a team that will make the playoffs with Tyler Johnson as a first line center? I love the Seth Jones pickup. I love it. I love that Seabrook and Keith aren't holding this team back anymore. But I'm certainly not bullish on the Blackhawks. And last year, I was unsure of how to handle them. Senka, what's happening? Great to have you. Thank you for joining us. And Birdie says, and the Vezina winner. It's so shocking when I went over the numbers for Marc-Andre Fleury. 26-10-0 last year, 1.98 goals against average, 928 save percentage. And yet this team with Stanley Cup aspirations lets them go. I was sitting there this morning going, how? Why? What could... Very, very strange. Darcy Kemper on the other side is enough for me to think that I don't want Colorado to win the Cup at this price point. Kemper, 10-11-3, 2.56 goals against average, 907 save percentage. That's him. He's just okay. Susan Vincent, great to see you. Thank you for joining us. And TJ says tickets cash on the Ranger game. Yeah, I already did that, TJ. It's 65% of the tickets, 84% of the cash are on the Rangers money line. And 31% of the tickets, 51% of the cash are on the under. When we go over to this Chicago-Colorado game, there's 7,767 tickets in. 52% of the tickets are on Colorado, 55% of cash on Colorado. And I'm sure some of that money is probably reeling, knowing that Nate McKinnon's not going to be in the lineup. Then you have 74% of tickets on the over and just 51% of cash on the over. And that makes a ton of sense to me because we know what this team does. Let's move over to the Avalanche lineups. We know exactly what the Avalanche do when they don't have Nate McKinnon in the lineup, and they play tight defensively. Nazem Kadri is centering Landeskog and Rantanen, at least that's the expectation. Nazem Kadri, before he got suspended in the playoffs last year, had scored 1 goal in his last 27 games. He's tough, and so is Landeskog. They're tough, but they don't score a ton. Then you have JT Compher with Burakovsky and Nichushkin. I'm legitimately thinking if you're going to expect goals from this Avalanche team, it's going to come from the Burakovsky, Nichushkin, Compher line. You got Josh Samporanta and Alex Newhook. Newhook is possibly a big piece of this puzzle moving forward for this team. And then you got Darren Helm sticking around in the show with Logan O'Connor and Curtis McDermott on the third line. Cale Makar and Samuel Girard, I think, are the best defensive pairing in the National Hockey League. Then you have Eric Johnson and Bowen Byram. Bowen Byram is going to be an absolute monster. And then Jack Johnson and Ryan Murray, we'll see how good they are. I am a little surprised that Kemper is the number one goalie here. I expected, and I know Francouz missed all of last year, but I think Francouz has a much higher ceiling. Oh, don't worry, DJ, it's all good. I think Francouz has a higher ceiling, Mr. Gog says Newark got a lot to prove in my eyes. North Ender says the public loves the over here. And let's take a look at what this has done. So Colorado's gone from minus 236 down to minus 190. So there's been a 46-cent move. And you can imagine that most of that's happened in the last 24 hours. So it was a minus 218. And then news yesterday around 2 o'clock. I think it was around 2 o'clock. Maybe it was earlier because at 8:55 a.m. they were minus 237. I can't remember the exact time we found out that McKinnon wouldn't be in the lineup. It's come way down to minus 190. And then from a total perspective here, it opens up at 6, and money's still moving towards this over. It's interesting. You get a plus line on the under 6, which is something I'm interested in. I'm really interested in this under. I would like to see more money come in on the over, but I don't see that happening. This is still... So it went to 6.5. Wow, it did at Pinnacle at 4 a.m. Lasted there for 30 minutes. And then if I go here, Brady says, why are we higher on the Avs more so than the Leafs? Avs have a better team, and like the Leafs cannot win the playoffs. Why do we believe in the Avs but still not the Leafs? I just think that the high-end talent on the Avs are tougher than the Leafs. Tougher. But I didn't make any future bets on the Avs. I don't think they were a worthy favorite team in the NHL. I think the Lightning should be the favorite in the NHL. I think that the Avs defense is much better than the Leafs defense. Not a little bit better, but much better. And, the Leafs could use a Gabe Landeskog. And I think McKinnon's better than Austin Matthews. That's why they're much bigger favorites in the marketplace. But they're too big favorites for me. All right. Ron Crawford says Francouz back in late October. Okay, so Francouz isn't even quite ready to go. I thought he was ready to go. Wow, Von Polo says my wife just surprised me with tickets to the Capitals game. I'm super excited. My first hockey game tonight will be amazing. Oh, Von Polo, that is so incredible. That is so absolutely incredible. Oh, man. What a game that's going to be. Oh, shit. Take some pictures. Puzzler said I read Kadri was suspended. No, Kadri is all that's he's back. He served his suspension, right? Because he would have played in Game 7 had there been one. Right? That's all, right? It was just because they got knocked out in 6 that he didn't play. Dennis Garcia says the Lightning struggled to make the playoffs. The Lightning don't care. That's why I love the Panthers division bet. And TJ says, I will be there too. Oh, that's so incredible. You guys should meet up for a beer. Meet up for a beer. Okay. All right. Sammy Coleman said, we played Colorado tough last year, but with the Avs adjusting their game without McKinnon and Taves, Doc, Jones, Fleury with the Hawks, lots of moving pieces, likely just pass here. Slatsy says, I agree with your take. How long before we see Kirby Doc there? Oh, soon. He's got to be there. And I want to see, is he bigger this year? Because I imagine he spent some time in the weight room, and it's really tricky in NHL, right? You add too much weight, you slow down. So it's a tricky thing. It's not like basketball where you need to have those big shoulders in the paint so you don't get pushed around. You just need a big ass in hockey, right? Sammy Coleman says Doc's going to be a beast. Okay, so I want the under here. I just don't know if I can trust Kemper enough, but Kemper is usually good off the start of the season. It's now a plus 105, the under 6. And I'd be interested to see what the cost of 6.5 would be. Not that I'm going to do it. Minus 135. Okay, I am interested in the under, and that's it. Those of you who moved on Chicago earlier, I know that Birdie did. I think that's a great spot. I respect that spot. Now that you have no Nate McKinnon, you got to feel good about yourself. But then it always makes me nervous how players step up in this situation. So we know that Kadri is going to be – so they're going to – with the Avs having last change – Kadri is going to be out against that Kane and Johnson line. And so it'll be Kadri and Landeskog trying to physically intimidate that first line of the Blackhawks, which they're capable of doing. TJ says Colorado team total under 3.5 is at even money. Bleds W, what's happening? So I am very interested in this under 6. I want to watch what the market does with it. I'd love it to see if it could go up even higher. Brady says getting 60 points of value, win or lose, is the right spot. No, you've done great work attacking the market early, Brady. And I know that it didn't show up yesterday, but it will show up this season. I expect you to have a huge year, looking ahead and planning ahead the way you do. Osby says, I don't know that the Avs aren't looking in sync as much as they have last year. We'll have to see. But I want this under. And Bleds, the only move that I've made so far is, I've made an addition I haven't bet yet. But the only move I've made, I took the under 6.5 in Oilers Canucks. But I am going to move on the Montreal Canadiens. Okay. Let's go. Next up for us is the Vancouver Canucks at Edmonton Oilers. So, first off, this game is exciting on a couple different measures. I mean, it's the start of another likely shitty season for my knuckleheads, but it is not only the say hey play of the day, it is also Ron Crawford's spreadsheet play of the day on the Edmonton Oilers. So Ron Crawford is moving on Edmonton in regulation. Edmonton in regulation to get that VIG down for the Ron Crawford spreadsheet play of Then we have our man, Jose Bouquet, who is still in the black, a winning capper on this show, and I'm very proud of him for that. Say Hey Play of the Day coming to you right now in Vancouver Canucks at Edmonton Oilers. Jose, how are you?
Oh, Jimmy, we've got the Canadian seasons here. How are you?
Oh, man. I'm good. I'm very excited. I'm pumped up. Not because the Canucks are playing, because hockey is back. Hockey's back, and I truly believe, and look, we'll be very accountable with our stats and honesty and transparency. I truly believe we're destined for a big hockey season, and I'm very excited to work with everybody. Dennis Garcia says Jose should not try accents. Jose, how are you? You're looking at this Vancouver Canucks Edmonton Oilers spot. Rogers Place in Edmonton, Alberta. Beautiful downtown arena they've built. Thatcher Demko going up against Mike Smith, 39-year-old Mike Smith. I've got a lot to talk about in this game. First off, and most important note, is the Oilers have listened to our birdie, and the Oilers are putting Draisaitl, McDavid, and Puljujarvi on the same line to start the year. In the preseason, they went 6-1-1. Goal differential of 26-17. And we will see if this transfers over tonight. I'm on the under 6.5 at plus 110. I'm not sure if that's still available at Bet365. We will check. Jose, what is your plan of action?
Well, Jimmy, I'll admit, I don't know dick about hockey. Absolutely anything. You could tell me fucking Robin Lehner is on the Bruins now, and I believe you. Actually, I know a little about the Bruins. But I look at the numbers, Jimmy. I look around, you know. Your Vancouver Canucks, from what I know, Jimmy, they're dick cheese. They're very bad. You've got Quinn Hughes, who's a very good young player who you apparently hate. And then the other guy, Pettersson, who I know you hate as well, who also is apparently your best player, which I don't really understand, but I don't need to understand because you know more hockey than I do. I looked around, and I'm looking for my Say Hey Play of the Day, and I saw my favorite hockey player to watch. My guy, Connor McDavid, is even money to score one goal, Jimmy. Connor McDavid, McJesus, the savior to hockey himself. Connor McDavid to score one goal, even money today on Bovada. That is what I'm going with on our friends of BetDog. I think he gets a goal. I think pretty simply. I saw his points are at 1.5 at minus 140. Thought that was crazy. Assists minus 200, which I thought was hilarious. And then goal, even money. You know, it just seems like it's a layup. I think I can see him dancing around Vancouver's defense all night. Could I name one more player on Vancouver's team besides Pettersson and Quinn? No, but I think he will do that today.
Well, McDavid doesn't score 80 goals a year. So having McDavid, even at home, he doesn't score 40 goals at home during the year. So lining it at plus 100 is – there's a reason why it's at plus money. There's a reason why –
it's a reason because they don't know, Jimmy. They don't know what I know, obviously, about the NHL. You know, I'm going to get a baptism to the NHL today, or to this whole season. I'm going to be the most knowledgeable Venezuelan person on this fucking earth about the NHL by the end of this season. And guess what, Jimmy? I'm going to have a winning number in the NHL this year, and that's a fact.
All right. Well, I will then track only your NHL bets as well and see if that comes to fruition. Let's talk more about this spot here. Thatcher Demko, 16-8-1 last year, 2.85 goals against average, 9.11 save percentage. Very good numbers when you have a guy like Quinn Hughes playing in front of you. Mike Smith, 21-6-2, 2.31 goals against average, 9.23 save percentage. Spectacular numbers from Mike Smith that we did not expect. So we have Hyman, Nugent Hopkins, and Yamamoto on the second line. McDavid, Draisaitl, Puljujarvi on the first line. The Canucks did not look good in the preseason, but they did. They lost their final 2 exhibition games at home and home with the Oilers, losing both games 3-2. That has nothing in my mind with the reason why I'm on the under here. Zach Kassian is out of the lineup. Devin Shore out of the lineup. And for the Canucks, Brock Besser is on IR. Brandon Sutter is sick and is on IR. And Tyler Mott is on IR as well. So let's take a look at the roster for these knuckleheads without Besser in the lineup. And we have Alex Chason replacing him. JT Miller, Elias Pettersson, Chason replacing him. Then Tanner Pearson, Bo Horvat, Connor Garland. Then Highmore, Dickinson, and Hoglander. Dowling, Lamico, and Podkolzin. This is a bad hockey team, is what it is. It's just a bad hockey team. JT Miller, I think they would be better off if he was at center rather than Pettersson. But the Oliver Ekman-Larsson pickup, I despise. All we had to do was go through one more year with those contracts and get that burden lifted off of them. This team is not ready to win now. So I despise the Ekman-Larsson trade. So let's move over to these Oilers. I think that Darnell Nurse is quickly becoming a Norris Trophy candidate. I like the look of this lineup. It's too bad that Kassian is hurt because he brings something to this team that the Knuckleheads don't have. And Mike Smith is coming off a great year. Slatsy. Arthur Meade Jr. saying Vancouver Canucks 4, Edmonton Oilers 2. After looking at these lineups one more time and seeing Chason up on that first line, I don't know how the Canucks beat the Edmonton Oilers here. And there's been a 6-cent move to Edmonton. Let's take a look at the 6,103 tickets in. 82% of the tickets, 77% of cash on the Oilers, so 5% the other way. And 40% of the tickets, 86% of the cash on the under. I love seeing that, and I knew that beforehand. Dennis Garcia says, Jose, please clip this Vancouver hate from Jimmy so when they make the playoffs, we'll have this bookmarked for trolling.
I will. Thank you, Dennis.
And Mr. Gokes are laughing with Chason on the first line. Cashman says, how do they stop McDavid from scoring maybe 1 or 2 goals? So that must make you feel good, Jose. I would like to look.
That's what I'm thinking, eh?
You're getting the Oilers here. Let's just take a look at this. Sorry, move over to.
No rush, eh?
I'm getting the Oilers minus 180 and plus 135. Let's just pop that into our puck line calculator. Extremely important. And I am going to move on the Edmonton Oilers on the -1 line.
Jimmy, can I ask you a question about Canadian Kaepernick? What statistics? This is from a question, by the way, from earlier in the chat. I forgot who said it. I think it was Betts. I forgot his name already, but I'll look for it in a second. What stats do you look at hockey that matter to you? What do you look at? Is there a certain thing you're like, oh, this number is higher, then I'm going with this team, eh?
Well, for starters, special teams are the most important factor in a hockey game, in my estimation. And you could say that goaltending is more important than that, and that would be valid. But special teams are absolutely crucial in today's hockey. So that is the very first thing that you need to be abreast of, is what your team's power play and shorthanded is. Then you have to go over the goaltending situation that you have. Those are the two most important things for me. Now, when in the beginning of the season, there is nothing that will help you other than your knowledge of the teams and the players. There's no statistics that you can bank on, I believe. So when I was capping this, I did add some notes, but at first I wasn't going to add any notes other than the lines because I know these players inside and out. Ron Crawford says penalty killing, power play, goals against, and even strength goals. So, but for me, the most important aspect of me being able to forecast a result in hockey is special teams play. That would be my answer.
And wouldn't you say that the Edmonton Oilers have one of the best special teams in the game, eh? I mean, I don't know. I didn't hear if you say if Leon is in the lineup tonight, but I mean, McDavid by himself, he's a god. He does it all, eh?
You have no more A's allowed. You've hit your quota. I will cut you from the stream if you give one more A, and that goes for the rest of the week. You've passed your quota of A's, and yes, their power play is very good. It's their penalty killing that we have to keep a very close eye on. And Mike Smith at 21-6-2, 2.31 goals against average, 923 save percentage. I don't know how he can keep that. I don't. And look, he's not somebody who really generally, if you remember him with the Coyotes, it's rough time with the Flames, but he's not someone who puts together years of great play in a row. He's sort of one of those guys who has a great year and then a down year and then a great year and then a down year. I don't have those numbers in front of me, so that's just kind of going off of vividness. But at 39 years old, I don't know how we can expect Mike Smith to be able to succeed on the level that he succeeded last year. And for a 39-year-old goalie, I think the short season helped him, and we'll see if he'll be able to make it through this long season. Viper MB says Jose should start saying dressing room. I agree with that. He should start saying dressing room.
Well, we got to play for the organizations, eh? Oh, no.
That's it. All right. That's it from Jose. So Jose has moved on Connor McDavid for a goal at plus 100. I'm going to move on the Oilers at minus 119. I do think that the minus ones on Edmonton should be used because you want to be in a situation where if it gets to overtime on a 3-on-3 situation that you have the opportunity to push, because McDavid and Draisaitl on 3-on-3 are unbelievably dangerous. So there you have it. There is the Canucks Oilers spot. I am adding Oilers minus 1. Dad Fences, when do we start discussing NBA? Very, very soon. I promise you, very, very soon. Over the pants butt stuff back in action. Over the pants butt stuff. I haven't seen him in a while. It's on Patty Kane tonight. Cab drivers be on the lookout, man. Oh God, that Patty Kane's learned from that. He's learned from that horrific taxi ride in his hometown of Buffalo. Okay. And Kevin Riley says Catcher Jimmy play at Montreal over 6, and Kevin Riley's now hit 15 straight. 15 straight winners for Kev Riley, and I've watched him do it. So if he's on the over, this guy is white hot right now. Okay, let's move on. We have one more game left. We're not going to be able to do this, by the way, for the rest of, generally speaking. There's going to be tons of games that we have to break down. We're not going to be able to sit and really cap and break down thoroughly games. And I find this game so interesting. So very interesting. Winnipeg Jets at Anaheim Ducks, Honda Center in Anaheim, California. Connor Hellebuck against John Gibson. Ron Crawford says Winnipeg, Anaheim, first period under, Jets minus 140. And we have the last game of Scheifele's suspension from the playoffs, which means Cole Perfetti will make his NHL debut tonight. Jets 2020 first-round pick had an outstanding preseason. He's going to be playing on a line with Harkins and Adam Lowry. Riley Nash of Jenny Svechnikov will be making their Jets debut. They're on the fourth line. And for the Ducks, Mason McTavish, the third overall pick in this past draft, is making his NHL debut. 18-year-old, if he does, which we expect him to, he will be the youngest player in franchise history. Okay, so Benny Pennybaum says the Jets take it. I want to be able to bet the Ducks at home, but only when there's a giant risk reward. It doesn't have to be giant, but it has to be, the implied probability will have to be. I'm not sure yet. I don't want to give a number on that yet because I want to watch Anaheim in play before I put myself on something that I'll have to back up for the rest of the year. So maybe I should edit myself there. But at right now, somehow, Bet365 has the Ducks at plus 110. So it's by far the worst number that's on the board. Bet Online up to plus 126. Let's take a look at what we're dealing with from a market perspective here in a second. But let's talk unders. There was a time when Anaheim was the crown prince of unders, where you'd cash unders, you no worries about 5.5s. You could even bring it down to 5 for a huge plus price. And I love doing that, by the way. That time is probably over because they have young, skilled forwards now that aren't known for their defensive capabilities. This line opened with the Ducks at plus 125. They're now plus 123. So a 2-cent move towards them. From a total perspective in Winnipeg, Anaheim, we have it opening up at 5.5, the under at minus 117. The under is now minus 109. So that's an example. There's been an 8-cent move to the over, and with the rosters of 2 years ago in 2019, that would never happen. And when San Jose would play Anaheim, you just sit back and count your cash with an under. 5,258 tickets in. We have 12% of the tickets on the Ducks and 9% of the cash. And yet they're not giving us a big line to bet on the Ducks. That is a red flag and makes me want to bet the Ducks. But again, there's just not the number that I want. I'll tell you, when I see something like that, and I don't care as much in hockey, I care more about my gut instincts in hockey, but there's no way I'm going to be betting the Winnipeg Jets here under any circumstances. This total this total is at 68% of tickets to the over and 74% of cash. Again, you would never ever find that. Arthur Meade Jr. is on Anaheim plus 0.5 in the first period. That would create a situation where, there's just like what I mean. How much juice are you gonna? That's got to be so expensive in my estimation. What is this first period plus apps minus 200? I can't. Thank you, Betting Tips 1000. Okay, so Brady says I'm not posting it, but I have a personal play on the Ducks. I coached against Perfetti. Wow, he's a special player. Still think he's too small at this point for the NHL. Wow, having Birdie here in our chat is so incredible. He's going to help us so much as we break all these down. Slatsy says, "What would be your number on the Ducks to bet?" I would say plus. Now it's not fair to say this probably because you don't want to put a number that's not there. But I would say plus 135. If I could get a plus 140, I'd bet it immediately. Oh, Arthur Meade meant to say Anaheim first period. Yes, that's at plus 110. The first period bets on a dog are something that I really like, and I would like to take more advantage of it this year because you have obviously a chance for a big score, but you also you can push a lot of the time and just move on from it. So if you are afraid to risk on a dog, then especially a home dog, moving on them on the first period is something that I would love just to track alone right now. So, and Arthur Meade says, no way, minus 200. Noli Knows says under 5.5 is not a good bet here. Let's just discuss. So I think the Winnipeg Jets are a fine team to move on unders, even though their power play should be dangerous. And there are some questions right now on what we're going to get from Blake Wheeler, as he's got a lot of miles on him now. So Paul Stastny has taken the spot of Scheifele, and so he's on the line with Kyle Connor and Blake Wheeler. What that immediately does is it makes it a more defensively accountable line. Stastny is known to be in position and accountable defensively all the time. So this Winnipeg team without Scheifele on it and with Pierre-Luc Dubois with a ton to earn, if you can keep the Jets off the power play, and again, this power play now is Adam Lowry on it because of the Scheifele issue, then, and you know what? At this point, they have Nikolai Ehlers on the second power play unit, which I think is strange. And they had Pionk as their first unit power play defenseman and Josh Morrissey on the second. I would like to take unders with this team. I think the Jets can be good with unders, but then you have to have a team that's not going to put them on the power play, because I still believe that Kyle Connor is such a sniper, such a talent. But it's Anaheim that's the problem, Noli, here, is that they're just not the team we remember. And you have Trevor Zegras, Ricard Raquel, Troy Terry, Mason McTavish. So right there in your top 9 forwards, you have 4 guys that are all offense. And so, yes, you have Getzlaff and Henrique and some guys that you can count on defensively, but that's just too much offense and not enough defensive responsibility. And also, we haven't seen enough of them for me to really say they're not defensively responsible. I mean, I've seen enough of Troy Terry and Raquel, but Zegras, I got to watch him very closely, and seeing Mason McTavish out there, they're just not the team that we remember. And it's possible that they could have a strong power play. And again, when you're taking these under 5.5s, you really want to have teams with that weak power plays. They're so important to that. Mr. Ghost says Anaheim got to be the youngest team in the league. There's Rodney Barton in the house. And Brady says, I know it's off topic, but how good has Laine looked in the preseason? How long are we going to wait for this? The bullshit of that guy. Okay. Davfen, I could not limit my futures in NHL this year, and I'm nervous about it. So let's go over and put a bow on NHL for the show, and it's a treat. Thank you guys for sticking here, and we could put in over an hour on NHL. We're not going to get the opportunity to do that. So quickly, I'm adding the Canadiens at plus 155. I'm going to watch the Rangers-Capitals game with great interest, and I will be thinking of Polo and TJ at the game and loving it. I want the under in the Blackhawks Avalanche game, but I'm a little nervous about it, obviously, with the Blackhawks being involved and what Kane can do. But I think that the Avalanche will play quite defensively without McKinnon in the lineup. And I think Fleury will be strong. And I guess I have a couple questions about Kemper, but I'm interested in that under. I'm moving on the Oilers -1, and Jets Ducks will be watch and learn. For futures here, these are the 6 that I moved before we did our show. Toronto Maple Leafs under 105.5 points, and that was juicy, but I spent a little bit more on that bet than the others. Dallas Stars to win the Central at plus 700. Panthers to win the Atlantic at plus 425. Islanders to win the Met at plus 290. And I'm nervous about that division. It's very talented, and the Rangers and the Hurricanes are very good teams. Islanders to win the East at plus 850. Islanders to win the Cup at plus 1,700. So those were the 6 that I made before the show. Then after the show, Arthur Meade Jr. perfect, because we're doing Rutgers and Old Dominion perfect. So thank you. Satsi says, thanks for doing NHL first. Jimmy, we'll decide how we're going to do the order of sports. We'll decide that as a group together. And Ron Crawford says, can't get any worse than the 8% power play last season. Look, that Ducks power play was absolutely atrocious. And I'm excited. I like the way the Ducks are rebuilding. They're doing it the right way in my estimation. North Ender says, I'm not a futures guy, but I like your Isles look. I'm very excited to back this team. And I'm a big Lamorello guy. I just love him. And I love the team he's put together. So these are the additions. And I tried to cut, because after we talked, there was so many that I wanted to add, and I do not. Now, one of the problems with futures with a lot of cappers is that they don't want to have the money locked up. But when you have a local and it's on credit, the money's not locked up. Our bookies want us to bet futures so badly, and my ROI is bad. Now, I've had my biggest scores on the Penguins to win the Cup futures, the biggest scores of my life in sports betting. So that's sort of in my head. But when was the last time the Pens won the Cup? Like I've not, the futures have not been good for me, but my money's not locked up. And that is always why I bet too many futures. If you are putting out $2,500 on futures and you know that money's going to sit there for 6 months, you don't want to make them. And it's a very kind of tricky thing. Okay, here we go. Sabres under 67.5 points. Coyotes under 68.5 points. This will be the race for number 1 overall. I decided not to add the Detroit Red Wings under 77.5 points because I don't think their division is that good. I don't. And there's going to be teams that don't try that hard against the Red Wings, and I had to make cuts, and I think the Sabres and Coyotes are so bad. And this year, unlike in other years, like even last year when the Sabres had Ullmark, their goaltending is absolutely atrocious. These are such bad hockey teams. They're so bad, and they're going to try to be bad. And the Coyotes have completely screwed themselves. That's what happens when you hire a 26-year-old general manager. The Sabres are now going to try to build back the right way, but they can't get out of the way from these. They've still got Okposo and Jeff Skinner, and they're going to have Jeff Skinner for the next 6 or 7 years. I mean, these teams are just they've been managed poorly, and now they're going to have to reap the consequences of their shitty decisions. And so I moved on both those unders. Sabres under 67.5 points, Coyotes under 68.5 points. Oh, no. Birdie says, staff meeting tomorrow. Looks like I'm going to have to go back to the office. My time here may be done. Hopefully there's a combination of work and home. If there isn't, it's been a blast. Birdie, don't say that. Birdie, don't say that. Oz B says, how do you feel about the Devils this year? I'd say the hardest team to figure out. But I'll tell you, Oz, that Pistol Pete Loshak moved on there over. I don't know. They certainly have an enormous upside. And I've got to watch them. I'm serious. What is Jack Hughes and Nico Hischier going to give you? I picked Hischier late in the hockey pool. I thought it was a steal. I got him in the 9th round because he scored 11 points in 21 games last year. They're a very tricky spot. Sanka, no taint at the moment. Our man Matty Ice, just because there's no baseball right now. Okay, so then I moved on the Dallas Stars. I had to put my money where my mouth was. So over 95.5 points, that was minus 120. Stars to win the West at 9-1. Stars to win the Cup at plus 2,200. And Stars to win the West and Stars to win the Cup were not plans. So I put $100 on those. Those were just half unit additions. The Sabres and the Coyotes, I didn't put a ton on it. So it's just $200. And the Stars over 95.5 points, I did it at a 150 because in all honesty, the Stars could, in my estimation, if the Stars have one goal, and that's to come into the playoffs healthy, and if they ended up the year with 93 or 94 points, I still think they're going to be very dangerous in the playoffs. And if Khudobin sucks and Holtby's shit, then they're going to have to make a change with their goaltending, and maybe they get hot late. We know this is already a streaky team. So, okay, there you have it. There is our hockey, and it is 11 future bets I made. Okay, let's move on to NCAA football. Thank you guys so much for rolling with us. Kevin Riley got the Montreal over 5.5. It's an official play now. I love it. And Slot says, Birdie, that's worse than the Lightning game last night. Yeah, we don't want to hear that, Birdie. We need you. We need you. Okay, let's get to work. College football. We begin with Rutgers Scarlet Knights 3-3, 0-3 in the Big Ten, at Northwestern Wildcats 2-3, 0-2 in the Big Ten, where Ryan Field and Evanston, Illinois. So there was a couple things that I was doing. I know that I want to pick games that Babano and CMAC aren't capping, just to give you a different take or a different game to add. But I had to move on this game. Another thing I did was I went over last week's action and I tried to pick out the teams that I felt played under their potential. And they put themselves in a situation where they should be angry this week. And it was very difficult to do that. And I'm going to keep working on that. And I'm going to spend, because we're going to add games throughout the week for NCAA football. And I'm going to add spots where I think that it's a team that we're going to get a break on. And with Western Kentucky, Old Dominion, you're going to see that. But Old Dominion, okay, but we'll get to that. Rutgers Scarlet Knights, Northwestern Wildcats. Let's start with the market, and let's move to the cash flow. So from a market standpoint, let's move over here to NCAA football. We have this Rutgers game popping off right at 12. Let's move over to get spreads and totals up here. All right, here we go. Here we go. Northwestern opens up as 1-point favorites. It's completely switched over to Rutgers. This total opened up at 46.5, and it's dropping. It's now at 44.5 across the board, although Pinnacle is still hanging the 45. When we get to the cash flow situation in this game, we have 1,147 tickets in, and it's all Rutgers. It's 83% of the tickets, 99% of cash. Big bets coming in on Rutgers. They switch to the favorite. It's also on the over, which is interesting. Now, I know we have a really small sample size, but it's very interesting that it's all on the over. 94% of tickets, 92% of cash, and yet this game is going under. Noli No says Northwestern's defense is bad. I agree completely. Let's break this down. Let's start with Rutgers. Rutgers has played 3 very difficult teams in a row. 3 weeks ago, they looked very good, losing 2013 at then number 19. Michigan is 20.5-point dogs. Then they went home for an enormous game, and I got romanticized by this fucking 2013 loss, and I lost badly on a first half full game on Rutgers. And when I look back at it, it's a mistake that I don't usually make. CJ Stroud, a kid with so much potential, gets to sit and watch for a week. And I love that shit. And so it was a mistake that I don't usually make. And I even said, I think CJ Stroud will have a better game because he got to sit back and watch for a week. And I don't really believe he was injured. I thought that they just wanted him to actually watch the offense work. Then he saw a freshman come in and put up, 50 plus points against Akron. And he was like just chomping at the bit to get out there. And it was a huge, huge, huge mistake. Harold Williams says Rutgers. And Cab says Rutgers isn't as bad as their record. Northwestern is. Okay. Top sets on Rutgers team total over. So after they lose 52-13 as 14.5-point dogs at home to Ohio State, they play Michigan State at home. And the market was wild. If you remember when that line came out, and I could pull it back up, I won't, but Michigan State was very small favorites. I believe they opened at 5 or 5.5, and it went down to 4. And clearly there were sharps on Rutgers, but I couldn't do it. And at first, Rutgers was in that game, and then Michigan State pulled away 31-13 as 4-point dogs. Their defense just couldn't get stops late. So Rutgers on the road, though, has been a different beast. They've won 4 of their last 6 road games. And they've covered their last 7 road games. 7-0 against the spread in the last 7 road games. Noah Vidal is a quarterback who doesn't get – he's a veteran quarterback. He doesn't get nervous. He's comfortable in these road games. 1,122 yards, 6 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Their running game is strong, 141.8 yards a game. Pacheco, 314 yards, 3 touchdowns. And their defense is good, allowing 22.8 points per game and 366.8 yards per game. Northwestern beat Ohio badly, 35-6 at home as 13.5-point favorites, but Ohio's a bad football team. So they followed that up by heading to Nebraska, and I should have been on this. And Nebraska just destroys them, 56-7. Alexi in the house, great to see you. Michael Overland says Rutgers is the only play here. Viper says I can't bet on Rutgers since I'm in Jersey. That's my alumni. Oh, that's stupid, Viper. I remember that's your alumni too. That sucks that you can't. So look at what happened to Northwestern in that Nebraska game. They were outgained 657-293, and it looked like they gave up in that game. Hunter Johnson's not played since the loss to Duke, so sophomore Ryan Helinski's in, and he came in and looked decent, 25 for 39 for 256 yards, 1 touchdown, no picks, but a lot of those yards came in garbage time. So Rutgers -2 at -110. That's the only bet in college football I've made this week. Viper says Rutgers roll here. I agree. This is what I was supposed to call Birdie's wife. Okay. All right, so there we go. There is game 1, Rutgers Northwestern. I'm on Rutgers -2. Let's move on to a game that I find fascinating because I've been watching these teams somewhat closely, especially Old Dominion, and I've messed up. I've messed up on Old Dominion. It's so stupid that I've messed up because week 1, we broke them down, or week 0 or whatever it was, about Ricky Ronnie coming over from Penn State as the offensive coordinator. He's been over there for a year and a half now. They didn't play last year, and he's come with a lot. And how bad was this team in 2019? They were god awful. So here we are, SB Ballard Stadium, Norfolk, Virginia, and Old Dominion is playing well. And I lost on Marshall badly last week, and it was poor capping with Marshall. And Old Dominion played really good, and they're playing better every week. But I really wonder. Cab says, I wonder if you could take Bama under -17. We're going to talk about the big games as well, but not quite yet. And R says Rutgers by 2 scores at least. I love this. Okay. Now, let's start with the market, and then we'll move over to the spot here. So this game pops off at 3:30. And where are you? Here we go. Western Kentucky opening up as 12.5-point favorites. That's gone down to 12 at Pinnacle, but it's at 13 at UWager. Curious to see when UWager moved that to 13. They did that at 10:12 a.m. this morning. I had not noticed that. Then we'll go to the total here. Opens up at 68.5, and it's dropping. And I was surprised that it was as high as it was. And then I thought, God, I really got to talk this out. It wasn't the under that I was planning on betting, but the fact that it opened as high as it did, and I've already seen people bet the over, I was like, I got to talk this out and figure this out. Ron Crawford says, I actually lean ODU, and I get it. And that's why I haven't bet Western Kentucky yet. I couldn't do it. I was so close. I was like, you know what? Let's just talk this out. So let's talk this out together. Western Kentucky's lost 4 straight, but they haven't looked bad in any of them. They lost 38-35 at Army as 6-point dogs. They lost 33-31 at home to Indiana as 9.5-point dogs. So they cover both those. Then they lose 48-31 at Michigan State as 10.5-point dogs, and they played well in that game. They outgained Michigan State 560 to 519. They had 31 first downs compared to the Spartans 26. So we watched Michigan State go into Rutgers and beat them badly. And they barely beat, not barely, because they win by 17 and cover. So barely is not the right word. But they don't beat up on Western Kentucky. Then last week, Topsit says, please break down the Troy game. I'm going to double up. I will, but I can't do that on today's show. And Nathan Cerna says, ODU Western Kentucky under. Interesting. Okay, I love this. Everybody let's work together and cap this game together, because I think we can find the angle if we work together here. So last week, we had the Say Hey play of the day on UTSA. By the way, Jose is going to be capping the UTSA game for us tomorrow on tomorrow's show, which is a great help. And Maxwell Smart was on UTSA, and I was nervous about it, and I didn't move on it, and it was part of my rough week. Yeah, I know. I did. Okay. So Bailey Zapp is the grad transfer from Houston Baptist. His offensive coordinator came over to Western Kentucky with him. Zapp is completing 70.4% of his passes for 2,235 yards, 21 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. He's very good. Austin Hill says Western Kentucky over is 5-0. Might be getting a bit pricey, but the team total may be a look. Interesting. Real Deal Prime, my man, says taking it all into them all ears. That is what Pistol Pete Loshak taught us. Listen. The more I listen to you guys, the better I do. And Nathan Cerna hit a 1K on a UTSA parlay. Nice job. That makes me so happy. And I was looking at LSU Florida over. Okay. So Zapp is very good, and Old Dominion doesn't have an offense that can hang with Western Kentucky. The Old Dominion defense is getting better and better and better. Now, you would maybe think with Ricky Ronnie as an offensive coordinator at Penn State, he'd be able to bring that over to ODU offensively. He hasn't been able to do that. He just doesn't have the weapons. And I like DJ Mack Jr. He hasn't been able to do that. But what he's been able to do is inspire these guys to play better football. And they've been playing better football defensively. So Western Kentucky, just before we leave them alone, 2 things here. One, they're a very angry football team. They've lost 4 straight, and they could have won all 4 of those games. They're a very angry football team. They're 5th in total offense. first in passing offense and 11th in scoring offense in the country. So you have a very angry team that has an explosive offense going to play an ODU team that is playing inspired football but can't keep up offensively. Since losing 45-17 at Liberty, Old Dominion is playing their best football in a long time. As we broke all this down already, I don't need to go back there. They lost by 1 point at home to Buffalo as 13-point dogs. That was a very strange game. Buffalo was up 35-7 at the half. And as I've said, Ricky Ronnie has this team playing really inspired football. They're down 35-7 at the break. They came out and played excellent and lost that game 35-34. They lost 28-21 at UTEP as 5.5-point dogs. That was not the exact same, but a very similar situation. I watched that game. UTEP was completely dominating that game. It was 20-7 with 5 minutes left in the third. And then they start battling back. They get a touchdown to make it 20-14. Then they block a punt and bring it in and have a 21-20 lead. Now they lose that game 28-21. And UTEP was the better football team. But then last week, they just missed almost winning at Marshall before losing 2013 in overtime as 21.5-point dogs. All these other teams came in underestimating ODU. We know that for sure. And my thought when I wanted to move on Western Kentucky was that Western Kentucky will not make that mistake. They've lost 4 games in a row. They have to beat up this ODU team. They have to. DJ Mack Jr., whom I like, has 5 touchdowns, 7 picks, and he's completing 51.5% of his passes for 859 yards. Are they going to be able to go blow for blow with Western Kentucky? Austin Hill says if ODU lets them, Western Kentucky will stretch the legs. All right. I guess after saying all this, I'm still a little nervous to back Western Kentucky, and I guess if you want Western Kentucky, then maybe that you have to back them first half because it just seems like ODU doesn't come out as strong in the first half, and ODU is probably feeling very good about themselves. If ODU's – so when I saw this total so high, I was surprised that some cappers took it as Western Kentucky's defense is so bad that ODU can score and push this over because that was not what I was thinking. I was thinking that ODU does not want to get in a gunfight with Western Kentucky. And they will do everything they can to slow down Western Kentucky, not go blow for blow with them. So that's why, to me, this game would be going under. Let's take a look at the cash here in this spot. Just 529 tickets in. So let's not get too carried away. But 71% of tickets, 83% of cash is on Western Kentucky, and then 57% of tickets, 87% of cash is on the over, but that's such a small sample size and the market's going under. So I guess I haven't figured out this after all this talk, but you would think that Western Kentucky first half would probably be the look. It's under a touchdown. By the way, another interesting note on this game is that it opened at 12.5, and then on Monday, around noon, a big bet came in on ODU, and it went down to 10.5 at Pinnacle, which rarely makes those moves, and it got hammered the other way. So a big bet came in on ODU. They drop it down to 10.5, and then as soon as they do that, it only lasts at 10.5 for 13 minutes before they move it back to 12. So I guess the one thing after all of this talk that I can count on, after everything that we've said here, is that you have a very angry football team in Western Kentucky who's going to come in and be very strong early. I think. Ron Crawford says that is the only way ODU stays around. So if you like ODU here, then you have to like the under. It just feels like the under is the look here. Let's just go back to this market move on the under. But maybe we wait on this total. We see it. We can maybe guess, okay, it's sharp action that's bringing this total down. And if it's sharp action that's bringing this total down, maybe the public comes in and bets the over. Okay, I'm going to move on Western Kentucky first half. And that will be that. Ron Crawford says spreadsheet stat, play teams with better rush and overall defensive total yards, 26 and 8 against spread. That's Old Dominion. They play inspired football. And we saw that in that Buffalo game. But both in the Buffalo game and the UTEP game, they went down bad early and then they battled back. And Western Kentucky's so angry. So I'm not going to move on Western Kentucky full game. I'm only going to move on Western Kentucky, and I'm going to keep a very close eye on the under. See what Cab says. He says, I play that first half. Good luck. I'll take it with you. Well, let's get it, Cab. And Cab, I've been watching you comment on our videos. I love it. And it's just that when I go into the videos, I'm under the Pub Sports Radio, and so I don't reply because it's no one will know who at Pub Sports Radio is replying. I don't want to speak for the company when I reply, but I'm going to try to be replying more to the comments on the videos as myself. So I'll do that. But thank you for. I love hearing your looks and your ideas and commenting on the videos. I'd like to be more involved in all that. Okay, there is the 2 college football games. You are rolling. Let's move on to NFL football. I want to go over everything one more time, if you guys don't mind. I want to go over everything one more time because I found everything very, very tricky. I found this card very, very tricky. So let's start with the Thursday nighter. Now, we're going to do a full breakdown of the Thursday nighter tomorrow, not today. So here we go. Buccaneers, Philadelphia Eagles. And we're going to have our man Dutch Boy Fresh on the show tomorrow to help us break down this Thursday game. And we're also going to have Noli Knows on the show to break down the big Dodgers-Giants game with us. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Tomorrow's going to be a lot of fun. Okay, let's go. Buccaneers, Philadelphia Eagles. I got to talk with Noli about, whether it should be Thursday or Friday. But I want him for that Dodgers game. Okay. And spreadsheet stat play on teams that lost against the spread versus a team that won against the spread, 25-8. Betting tips. We're not going to do full breakdowns. I have a show on YouTube right now that's 3 hours long where we broke down each and every game last night. It's every night, every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. So let's go over this here first. Buccaneers, Philadelphia Eagles. My lean was towards both the under and the Eagles, and I was far too afraid to make the decision. Let's just see if there's been any change. Yes, it has moved down to 6.5. Interesting. When did that happen? That happened at 5:23 a.m. 5:23 a.m. 6.5 across the board here. This total here has gone from 53.5 and it's down to 52 at Pinnacle. There's a 52.5 at Bet365. Okay. So we're going to do a full breakdown of that tomorrow, and I may or may not add some action. Thank you, Isaiah Bolton, my man. It says Brady thumb sore, but should be all right. Yeah, we all expect Brady to be there. And no concerns. But Dallas Goedert will not be there. And Dennis Garcia does have the 53. Real Deal Prime says Sweet Cheeks Brady will be on point. Okay, then in that 9:30 a.m. game, I kind of got thinking that Flores will have these guys ready to go. And who knows if the Jags will be ready to go. And I wish I got the 3. It's probably a buy low spot here. But we have seen money come in on the Jags all morning. And I shouldn't say money. I should say the market moving towards the Jags. So it's very possible that there's a 3 on the board again. Any of you guys thinking about moving on the Dolphins, the Dolphins minus 3.5 has gone to plus 106 at Pinnacle. Let's just see if that follows suit with the cash flow here in that Dolphins game. We have 55% tickets still, 52% of the cash on Miami. And by the way, 78% of the cash is still on the over in that Thursday nighter, but those are often standalone games. Okay, so that's fine. So we wait on the Dolphins. If we get the 3 on the Dolphins, we pull the trigger. That's going to be the situation that I'm at right now, and we see it moving to plus 106 at Pinnacle. Okay. Dennis Garcia said, have you seen Miami play recently? In what world should they be laying 3 to anyone? Yeah, they've been bad. But I trust Brian Flores to get this team moving in the right direction. And I guess it's that simple. I guess I'm going to be buying in on Brian Flores in this spot. And, in reality, I guess we don't know how a player feels when they're overseas, but with Devontae Parker out and Will Fuller out, you have to think that it's going to be Myles Gaskin all the time out of the backfield. And I've tried to bet no props. But if Myles Gaskin, handles the flight and everything like that, he's going to be the key to their offense with their star receivers out. Birdie, I did notice that right before I went on the show that you want to break our Falcons pack. I think it's hilarious. And you know that I broke it week 2. So Birdie says, why, Jimmy? They have 2 offensive coordinators and their quarterback coach is calling the plays. They have no idea what they're doing on offense. And he agrees. Okay. All right. Maybe you guys have talked me off of it then. This is why I'm doing it. Okay, this is why I'm doing this anyways. Okay, so let's move on to the Chargers at Ravens. Chargers, Ravens, the public, we can assume, is going to be all over the Chargers. So at this point, we have 8,070 tickets in, and 93% of the tickets in the spread are on the Chargers. 93%. And it hasn't moved. It's just shocking. The public has won for the last 2 weeks. I've taken an ass kicking. And maybe they win again this week. And if the Chargers win, the public wins. Damon got Chargers plus 3.5. Nice job. Pamper Pop play of the day. Heating back up. Isaiah Bolton says, pretty sure interim coaches are undefeated in game 1 of taking over as head coach. There was some great notes about that, and we're going to talk about that when we get to the Raiders game. So we'll be talking about that here in a second. Oh, okay. We have another Say Hey play of the day coming. Oh, shit. Is that right? You're muted. And it's refreshing. Sorry?
There you go. I wouldn't say it's a way, it's a little bet skis here. I decided to put some pressure on myself, Jimmy.
Okay.
It doesn't mean anything. If I say, I'm going to go positive in hockey and there's no consequences if I don't.
Oh, okay. Oh, I see what you're talking about. Okay. Very interesting. Okay. You'll pop. Okay. I like this. I like where this is going. Okay.
I asked some of the people in the chat. We are primarily Canadian, apparently, in this chat. I got some compliments from my accent, by the way. I appreciate it. I had 3 suggestions, and I wanted you to think of some as well. Some maybe Canadian punishments to do to me if I so happen to be negative, which obviously won't happen this year. 3 suggestions were I should binge watch Second City TV and Strange Brew. Well, I don't know what that is.
No, that'll just make you a better person. So, that's not a negative thing. That'll make you a better person. You'll be more enjoyable to hang out with. It'll expand your horizons. So we want something negative, not something positive. So let's cut that.
Okay. I have to drink something called Molson, and I put another Canadian drink, perhaps. And then Ron, I think it was Fat Wally actually said I wasn't good enough for Molson, which...
I want something that's going to be negative. You're going to sit back with a Molson Canadian and watch Second City. You're just going to become a better person. So we need something that's going to be a shitty thing for you, not something that's going to make you more enjoyable to hang out with. So what's the third one?
The third one was Mr. Gokster, actually. Mr. Gokster suggested that I should go ice fishing in February.
Well, you're going to head up, to Michigan and ice fish with Big Show?
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm just the echo here, and I wanted to get your thoughts because obviously I've been told that you are also Canadian. You might have some punishments as well.
Okay, well, those aren't going to work. Damon Santori says, maple syrup involved. Okay, we're going to come up. I'll pitch this to the audience before we put a bow on this show. So you've added a new element. There should be a penalty if you end the season negative, but it should be a penalty. Something bad. So, okay, I like it. I like where you're going. Okay, I'll pitch it to the chat when we get to the end of this. And Robert Cherry's NHL actions in Montreal plus 1.5 under 6, Washington money line, Colorado money line and minus 1.5, Vancouver plus 1.5. And Robert Cherry says Canucks are 6-0 facing Edmonton on the road going into the season. Yeah, I couldn't care less about what the Canucks were and have done. And this, the head coach, Travis Green, is shit. The general manager, Benning, is garbage. And they should reap what they sow, just like the Sabres and the Coyotes are going to do. So it just makes me fucking sick. Okay, let's go. We move on to Real Deal Prime. You got to watch that. We're in the throes of truth and reconciliation here in Canada for all the abuses we've made to the First Nations. So please watch that. We're a country in mourning over how we've treated the First Nations here. So please watch what we say here in the chat. I know you're a good man. Okay. And I know you don't mean any harm by it. So but let's okay. So next up we have Chargers, Baltimore. And we had from Birdie, said everything went right for the Chargers last week. That is not sustainable. Think about when we fade a guy in the NBA off a career game, you always fade them the next game. Same premise here. That makes sense to me, man. That makes sense to me. But I don't know if I can do it. But I'm certainly not going to be on the Chargers, and Bebsy is on the Chargers. Okay. Mr. Gokster says he has to go reeling in the cold tundra gym full 8 hours with a bottle of Kraken. That's not going to work because someone's going to have to pay to get him up there, Okay. So let's move on to the next. Okay, so that's the Ravens spot. Then we come to the Packers-Bears. So that's the only move I've made. And Harold Williams is going to charge. Harold, I just don't know if you're going to want to be sitting there on Sunday when 95% of the public is on that side. I just don't know if you want to be. Packers-Bears. I'm on the Bears plus 4.5. And Bebsy moved on the Bears team total under 20.5. If that's what we need to do here, if we think this game in Chicago is going to go under, I don't know if it's going to go under. I think this might be a tricky over. Hear me out and tell me what you guys think of this. You have, and let's just look where the cash is here for a second. Bears, Packers. Look at that. 74% tickets, 93% cash on the over. The Packers don't have Jair Alexander or Kevin King. So, sure, you could sit here and say, look, the Bears have the 32nd ranked offense. They can't take advantage of that. But what if they do? What if they understand, and I know Nagy's an ASCON, but what if they understand where the Packers' weakness is and attack them there? Then Rodgers will have only one thing he can do is fight fire with fire. Birdie says, the more I'm looking at this Bears-Packers game, I'm liking your Bears play. We'll join you and Yoda on it. Dennis Garcia says, go Bears, go. So what do you guys think of that? Well, obviously, there's big bets that have come in on the over, and yet it's dropped from 46 to 45. So this is just coming to me now, the over in this game. Now, did we not say, God, I should have, sorry, I got to have the weather up here. Let me just grab this really quickly. And I don't we don't want to be here for nearly as long as we were yesterday. It's windy. Not really. What, 13 miles? Gorgeous Sunday in Illinois. Yes, Bertie, yes, I know the Yoda is Dennis Garcia, my man. So what do you guys think about going in the opposite direction in this Packers-Bears game? I think it's the play. But I'd love to hear what some of you guys have to say about it. Clearly, this total has gone from 46 to 45. Is there a 44.5 on the board? The under, there's been a 1 cent move to the over since yesterday afternoon. Okay. And Puzzler says maple syrup is savored, not chugged. Yes, I agree with that. Okay, I've become interested in the over. Now I'm going to obviously keep a close eye on the market. Okay, so let's keep rolling here. I did not move on these Rams Giant spots that I am so interested in. So Bebsy moved on the Rams first quarter, first half, -3, -6.5. We don't know. Do we have any update on Daniel Jones? Let's see if we can get an update on Daniel Jones here. Obviously, if you cared about him and you were worried about this concussion, you would not want him to face Aaron Donald, but looks like he will. On track in concussion recovery. So couldn't participate in practice, but is on track with everything. And he's not being ruled out even if he's unable to practice. So ketchup chips are delicious, Cap, by the way. Absolutely delicious. That's no punishment at all. So the under was what I want, and it is just going up and up. Perfect. This under is going up and up and away. Perfect. So the market is telling us that Daniel Jones will be in the lineup. So Rams team total under and the under. This is absolutely falling into my. This is absolutely perfect. I want this total to rise up. It doesn't matter that Daniel Jones is there. This is a business. All business, the Rams going over there. They're not going to run up the scoreboard. Aiden says ketchup chips sounds disgusting. I get it. They sound disgusting. They are absolutely incredible. Spectacular. Delicious. So, market telling us he's going to be in the lineup. Let's just quickly see what this team total has done here. So, I'm going to move over to... I mean, could they be giving us... The 30.5 to me, I truly think it's a gift. The Rams are not going to be doing this. It's still 30.5, -120 to the under. Fuck, what was it yesterday? Okay. All right, so this is all on par for me. I guess the problem is, is it possible that the team total could drop a bit if Daniel Jones is in? Jason Folk, you never squirt ketchup on chips. So they're chip flavored. That's a flavor. Oh, Brian, trust me. If you guys, when we have our next big meetup in the States, I'm going to bring 50 bags of ketchup chips just so you guys can finally understand how glorious it is up here. Okay, so we're going to move on. Vikings, Panthers is a tricky spot and one where I want the Vikings, and I can understand why they're 1-point favorites. I would bet the Vikings right now. I'm just going to wait a couple more days just to make sure that there's no issues with any COVID stuff. But both quarterbacks are unvaccinated, so I don't know why I need to. Yes, Cab, we do meetups. The COVID has stopped it, but we want to do multiple meetups a year. And see their Troutwam said, I've had ketchup lays before. It's good indeed. It's very good. I want the Vikings. I should probably move on them now. I'm going to move on them before. I'm going to move. I plan on moving on the Vikings. So Oh no, Jason Falk. No, I didn't mean to get scored. No, you can ask any question about ketchup chips here. That's why we're here. Don't worry, Jason Falk. You're a low bagger, man. You're family. Okay, so Chiefs, Washington football team. I almost bet the Chiefs first half. I came very, very close to betting the Chiefs first half. And I don't know why I'm scared to do it. I don't think it makes sense to be scared to do it. I think the Chiefs first half minus 3.5 is a good bet. Yes, Michael Irvelina. Absolutely. I am still coming out to LA for Christmas. So, yes, we'll definitely do a big meetup down there. The big day at the track is on the 26th on what we call Boxing Day at Santa Anita. It's so crazy down there on the 26th, but maybe all that action will make it fun. Or maybe we should go on like the 27th or 28th when it's much quieter and we kind of take over the place. Why am I scared to take the Chiefs first half? I don't see why. I guess I was wondering if, we know that Allaire is gone, but I wonder if Kelsey got hurt. I think that's probably what I was thinking. I think I should just move on this first half minus 3.5 now. Then Bengals, Lions. This was let's move back to full game here. And thank you guys for sitting while we do this quick run over. I want to just do this once more. Bengals, Lions. We're back at 3s. And let's just take a look at this market again here with this Bengals Lions. 7,700 tickets in. 63% of the tickets, 53% of the cash. The sharps are on the Lions. Harold Williams says Chiefs first half is a good play. I agree. Brady says, how can we not hammer the Broncos first quarter and first half versus Raiders? Raiders not scored in the first half all season. They just lost their OC. It's tricky, and we're going to get there soon. So the Bebsy moved on the Colts first half against the Texans, and I don't know how the Colts are going to come out of that loss, in all honesty. And, the Texans were in a really nice spot at home against the Patriots team that had just expended a ton of energy. So I can understand. I don't know what to. How can the Colts be 9.5-point favorites? Are they that good to be 9.5-point favorites? Brian says Bengals all day. Can't see the lines getting this one. Decker may be back, but Ragnow for the year. Yeah. And Mr. Gokster said Denver off 2 losses. I like that. Rem Most at this point, but I am interested in the under in Chicago, Colorado, and I expect to move on it. I'm curious, is it possible that there's going to be a 6.5? I'd like to look at the market, and I just don't want to rush into it at this point. Then Cardinals, Browns, and we have the Browns now down to 2.5. This total has dropped 5 points. Remember, there's a ton of wind in Cleveland. And Birdie is betting Cincy this week. I'd like to fade the Lions again. I would. I'd like to do that. And I didn't do that in the Minnesota game, but I was planning on it and I didn't do it. But that first half would have cashed easily. Okay, so the Raiders Broncos game we broke down pretty heavy, and the question is all about Bisaccia. People seem to like him a lot, but you're right. Vegas scored 8 points in the first quarter this season, and they haven't scored on their opening drive in 11 straight games. And the Broncos got to be an angry team. You're right. This should not help the Raiders, even if everyone loves Bisaccia. How does this help? Now, usually in sports, when a team has a new coach, you back them week 1, but that's not a football thing. Football's chess. It's the most complicated sport that there is. It's chess with violence. Teams don't like firing coaches halfway through the year because it's such a complicated sport. So I don't know but there was a stat dropped here in the chat saying that, what is that, Denver? Saying that the record with coaches in their first game back with the team supporting them is being very profitable. Denver at minus 3.5 at minus 105. It feels like this is the look. It got up to 4. Let's just take a look at the market here very quickly. I know we got to put a bow on this show here. 5,787 tickets in, 69% of the tickets, 69% cash on the Broncos, 62% of tickets, 91% cash on the over, which is wild. Nathan Stern says Gruden firing could be a huge distraction, should be a huge distraction. I think you guys are right. It's got to be a Broncos look. It's got to be. Got no pressure with Chubb out of the lineup. It's not coming back for this one. Brady says, new coach is a special teams coach. Say what you will, but that's Gruden's offense in his 4th year. The Denver play looks like a gift, and I'm going to hit first quarter and first half. Why not full game, Birdie? Because I don't want to triple up. I mean, I could cut the bet down and triple up, but why not? Why not full game as well? And then the Seahawks, Steelers, and I want the Seahawks. And it's gone up to 5 at Bet365. Perfect. Went up to 5 this morning. Absolutely perfect. And money's just going to keep coming in on the Steelers. Oh, it's Jason Folks said, I do see the new coach angle. It was profitable last year, but with divisional importance still at play, Denver is the only look. And J-Dub says Broncos have a short week next week against the Browns. Good point, J-Dub. And Birdie says, because I don't think the Broncos step on the gas. Oh, those are great points. I'm so happy I'm doing this once more. Again, we have a 3-hour breakdown on our YouTube page right now. J-Dub says could be a spot for Toronto because of the short week against Browns. So maybe it is a first half look. That's great stuff. I'm going to be on the Seahawks, and I suspect I could get a 6 if I wait. Gino, man. I'll be telling Gino like crazy. And then Bills, Titans. Bebsy moved on the Bills first half and full game. And we know that's what the public's going to be doing. So I believe he did beat the market move. So, yes, he got the 5.5. It's now at 6. And he got the 3. It's now at 3.5. At what point do you want to turn the corner and back? The Titans, look, I get it's a very scary thing to do going against the Bills, who may be the best team in the league. 8,864 tickets. 81% tickets, 93% cash on the Bills. 50% of tickets, 83% cash on the under. All right, I needed to do that. Thank you. At this point, I don't think that means I will add anything. But I did talk, but maybe the Broncos first half should be an ad. Broncos first half. And then I know the spots I'm going to wait. Definitely wait. Maybe the Chiefs first half. I'm going to wait on the Vikings. Not much longer, though. And then that under's up, that totals up to 49 in Rams Giants. I love it. And you know what? If Daniel Jones comes back, I mean, he's going to be throwing the ball away instead of trying to get those few yards running the ball. And then the Packers-Bears overs is something that I think is a look that makes so much sense to me. Yeah, Jason, it's fun capping together. It's so fun. All right, there you have it. Thank you guys for letting me walk through everything one more time out loud. Let's review action for this evening. I'm adding the Canadiens plus 155. I'm going to watch that Rangers Capitals with great interest. And I understand why people are on the Rangers. I just love the plus 135 that was given in at minus 110 at the pick'em. I don't think the risk reward's there for me. I want the under in this Blackhawks Avalanche game. But I do want to see if I could get a better number if I wait a bit. Then Jose is on McDavid goal at plus 100. And I'm on adding the Oilers minus 1. Nothing for me in Jets Ducks. I've already bet Rutgers minus 2. I'm going to add Western Kentucky first half. And I'm going to keep an eye on this under. And there you have it. There you have it. Thank you guys so much for rolling with me today. It's going to get much more intense here in a minute. And we're not going to have the time to really sit and break down from every angle these spots. So I enjoyed this immensely. Just so thankful to cap with you guys. We need to, as a group, come up with a penalty, a Canadian penalty for Jose if he ends the year negative in NHL. And that is something that we will brainstorm. So if any of you guys can think of a good penalty for Jose, a Canadian penalty that will make him worse off, not that will improve his life, share it with us. Share with us on social media.
Is there anything else? Is there anything else that I should do that would make me as a better human? I'd love to know, since there's apparently a lot of them.
Oh my God, it's a list. It's a ridiculous list. Come on, there's thousands of things you need to do to be a better person.
Can I get 2?
Stop saying A. The first one.
I almost said it, but I didn't.
And grow that mustache strong and thick.
Okay. Well, I was hoping they would be a little more Canadian-centric. The first one was, but, I don't see a mustache on your Canadian face, so now I'm a little conflicted there.
If I was young, see, I'm 42. When you're a young man, you need the mustache because older people will give you respect for that mustache. It's not something you're going to need when you're 45. I mean, I'm 42, but it's something that you need as a 24-year-old.
I guess you're right, Jimmy, because I have got nothing but compliments in the chat about 1, my mustache, and 2, my accent again. So
we'll come up with something for you. And if you want, I'll start telling you things that you should do to be a better person every show.
Yeah, I would love that. I mean, I don't know. Could you tell me what Second City is or whatever that was? I'd love to know what that is.
It is a sketch comedy troupe up here that created the best sketch comics in our country's history, like John Candy.
Don't know who that is.
You don't know who John Candy is?
Zero idea who that is.
All right. Thank you guys so much for joining us here today. God, this guy doesn't know the star of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. He brought Raghib the Rocket Ismail to Canada. Ugh, for fuck's sakes. Just so sad what's happened to our youth today. I love you guys. Let's have a profitable Wednesday. We have 2 big shows, Thursday, Friday, and we're less than a month away from the Breeders' Cup. We will be live for both Friday and Championship Saturday. Uncle Buck, right, Damon? Oh, my God. I'm so thankful that I get to work with you guys every day. It means the world to me. So thank you for your support. Trot Wham. Oh, and Trot Wham has Wham Talk Wednesday. Wham Talk Wednesday today. And Oz B. Uncle Buck, of course. The Vidless. He drove Kevin's mom home when he was home alone. Cab, Michael Irvalina, Sharon, Jason Falk, Nathan Cerna, Mr. Gogster, Brian, Pacone, Dennis Trusty, Birdie, Slatsy, Rem Most, Von Polo. Von Polo, let's end with that. Von Polo, have a spectacular time in your first hockey game. Man, is your wife cool? Have an incredible time. It's going to be Rangers Caps, man. Fucking beautiful. So I'll be thinking about you tonight, my man. On behalf of all of us here at Pub Sports Radio, thank you for watching. Thank you for your support. Let's get that cash. Leche, hey, those bookmakers!